One big aw? Yeah. A human baby boy being raised by apes. Yes, that's baby Tarzan in the new movie Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. And Greystoke is one of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on At the Movies, the movie review program. Across the aisle for me, Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And across the aisle for me is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. In addition to Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, we'll also be reviewing Sean Penn's new romance, Racing with the Moon, and Gene Hackman in the father and son story, Misunderstood. But first, Gene starts with a thriller named Romancing the Stone.
That title, Romancing the Stone, is one of the worst movie titles I have ever heard, which is a shame because the movie is an upbeat, whimsical, romantic action picture that is a great deal of fun. It's a modern-day buried treasure movie, and the gimmick here is not the treasure, but the wildly different characters who are searching for it. There's Kathleen Turner, the sexy woman in Body Heat, playing a romance novelist, and Michael Douglas is sort of a freelance adventurer hiding out in the jungles of Colombia. They meet in the jungle when Kathleen Turner leaves her native New York to help her sister, who is being held captive in Colombia. This is the scene where Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas first meet. She's taken a wrong bus, she's all alone in the jungle, and quite afraid.
Could you please tell me how to get to a telephone?
No, lady, I don't have any idea. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's very important that I get one.
Well, we've all got our problems today, don't we?
Can you tell me where the nearest town is?
How about Miami?
Will there be another bus?
This is it. You got rush hour.
I have to get to Cartagena.
Cartagena? Angel, you are hell and gone from Cartagena. Cartagena's over there on the coast.
Please, I need your help.
That's my new career, huh?
It's very...
Lady.
I'll pay you. You don't understand. It's a matter of life and death. If I don't get to my...
How much?
$50?
No.
Well, you said you just lost everything you owned.
Not my sense of humor.
Well, I'll pay you $100. $200.
I'll do it. For $5.
What? I'll pay you $250.
Now, I ain't cheap, but I can be had. My minimum price for taking a stranded woman to a telephone is $400.
Will you take $375 in traveler's checks?
American Express?
Of course.
Got a deal.
Later in the movie, they're confronted by crook Danny DeVito, who has the buried treasure and is being chased by the Colombian army.
Come on. Move it. Move it. Move it. See how you like being stuck in... Holy...
Get in! Which way do we go?
Follow that stone.
Mounties!
That's a very good scene because we really don't know at that point, deep into the movie, whether or not Michael Douglas's character is a con man conning her out of that big emerald, or whether he's really on her side. Romancing the Stone is one of those kitchen sink movies. They've thrown 2 of everything into this picture, maybe 3. The film could have been cut down and might have been better if it had been a little tighter, but so many of its elements are so fresh and funny, and the relationship between Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas is so genuine and unpredictable that Romancing the Stone, despite its dumb title, gets a thumbs up for me. I appreciated everything that was fresh in this film. While watching it, I knew that someone was trying to entertain me. And that's very important.
I agree with that, and I also agree about the title. Just sitting here watching those scenes, I came up with what I think is a better title, Death of the Green Jewel. How do you like that?
Anything
or
like that.
Capture of the Green
Jungle
Jewel.
Fever, Jungle Jewel, anything. I mean, it's just, Romancing the Stone is a turnoff.
When I heard the title, I was thinking, is this about knights in armor? You know, is it some fantasy?
That's what I thought.
Sword and sorcerer or something?
That's what I thought.
It's a good movie, and I'll tell you another thing it is that people are probably going to point out. It is a rip-off of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Let's face it. This movie was inspired by Raiders, but it's got a distinction. It's the first clone of Raiders of the Lost Ark that's any good.
And you know what?
So if you're going to rip off something, at least do it do it well.
And you know why they did it well? Because they didn't go with a period picture.
That's right.
It's contemporary. And see, that's the trap in ripping off Raiders, is trying to go period. Here, they just take those kind of swashbuckling characters, old-style characters, and put them in a fresh situation.
With a great relationship. I agree with you about Turner and Douglas. Really a good relationship. And next at the movies, the story of how a little jungle orphan grows up and falls in love with a girl named Jane. Movie with a good title. Our next movie has the kind of title you like to roll around in your mouth. It's called Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. And of all the 40 or more Tarzan movies that have been made over the years, this one has definitely got to be the most realistic. Of course, it's a total fantasy, but it's a totally realistic fantasy. It begins with a great sequence showing young Lord Greystoke orphaned and alone in the jungle, where he's adopted by a mother ape and raised as her child. Tarzan grows into an adult who's basically a very smart ape, and in this scene, a Belgian explorer discovers the Lord of the Jungle.
Who are you? So help me. Say something.
That's Christopher Lambert, an unknown French actor, playing Tarzan. And here's a later scene in the film where Tarzan's been returned to Scotland to claim his rightful title as John Clayton, Lord Greystoke. He tries to make it in one piece through a formal meal.
This is a game that we used to play on board the ship. He used to enchant the crew. The best thing is that if you close your eyes and imagine that you are en Afrique. Yes, in Africa.
Beautiful.
Well, what woman could possibly resist that? That's Andie MacDowell as Jane, and she's soon going to fall in love with Tarzan, although at no point in this movie, by the way, does the Lord of the Jungle ever say, "Me Tarzan, you Jane." I think that's because of the wonderfully logical reason that he hasn't read the novels about himself, and so neither he nor anybody else knows that his name is Tarzan. The best scenes in Greystoke are the early ones, where young Tarzan learns the ways of the jungle with a band of very convincing chimpanzees, some of them real animals, some of them men in really good uniforms. Later on, the movie seems to lose some of its dramatic tension, though. It's more about how Tarzan tries to fit into British society than about what a great action hero he is. But basically, I like the movie, although the first part, the jungle part, better than the part in Civilization.
Yes, it is. And you know what? The jungle part still isn't even as good to me as the opening Dawn of the Man sequence in 2001, which manages in, I think, probably about 7 or 8 minutes, even if that long in Stanley Kubrick's great film, to communicate everything that isn't done in the first maybe 45 minutes of this movie. And I felt sort of blah about the whole picture when it's a big production, and I really thought this would have carried me away. The second half of the picture isn't as well done as the Francois Truffaut film, The Wild Child, which was essentially the same story, about, you know, should you be civilized or not, which is better, nature or civilized.
Here you compared Tarzan to 2001 and a Truffaut film, so you're setting pretty high standards. And I agree this film doesn't come up to those standards, but nevertheless it is interesting in its own right, and I think it's really convincing when we see the little baby, as we saw at the beginning of the show, in the arms of that mother ape, whose name is Caliban. All
right, and I gave it a big awe at the beginning of the movie, and that's what, you know...
I think the real weak part of this film is that there's no place for it to go once he comes back to civilization, because it's only about the fact that he has come back to civilization.
They made a very big mistake.
He's meeting, there's no suspense, there's no problem or crisis that has to be solved.
And you know what it could have been? And you said it right there by responding to him growling in her ear. Make that love story the most potent thing in the film, and for some reason, you have a terrific young actress there, Annie McDowell. She was very exciting. They just backed away from the love story and went in the nature of this civilization thing and blew it, I think. What it could have been a terrific picture. Coming up next at the movies, 3 young people in love and afraid during the early years of World War II.
Then you are free Christmas Eve.
Definitely.
You want to go out?
Definitely.
Our next film is named Racing with the Moon. Terrific title. We're all talking about titles this week. And remember that World War II film called The Summer of 42 a few years ago with that teenage boy becoming a man? Well, this movie, Racing with the Moon, could be called Winter of 42-43. It starts in Christmas and goes for about 6 weeks. It's also a World War II love story with young people. 3 young people this time, 2 working-class boys who are best friends, and a seemingly rich girl who one of the boys loves. Sean Penn plays that boy, and he's nuts about her, as you can see in this scene where he tries to make a date with her in the town library.
Can I help you with something?
Oh, no thanks. Just doing a little college prep work.
I can see.
Hey, what's your name?
Why?
You mean why?
I don't go out with strangers.
Who said anything about going out? Besides, if you told me your name, we wouldn't be strangers.
Well, at least you're harmless.
Harmless?
It's not supposed to be an insult. What are you, some kind of adult?
Oh, first I'm harmless, now... What the hell is this?
Oh, I take it back. You are definitely not harmless.
That was Elizabeth McGovern as the cute young woman there. Their relationship is just great, but the movie keeps them apart through a slight misunderstanding that I began to really resent after a while. It's one of those idiot plot things that you talk about where one simple little statement can turn it all around. The other key relationship in the movie is between Sean Penn and his best friend, played by Nicolas Cage from Valley Girl, the punk rocker in that film. Both boys are facing their 18th birthdays very soon, which means that they're going to be going off to fight the war, and that both delights them and frightens them. And they talk about it one late afternoon on the roof of the bowling alley where they set pins.
Johnny Lester came in today. His brother's dead.
Tommy?
He died on an island.
Guadalcanal.
Yeah. Funeral's tomorrow. Johnny said we're invited. Want to go?
I don't think so.
Me either.
You know what I want, Henry? I want an eagle right here. A tattoo. Yeah. Just wait till those Japs see me and my eagle come charging over the hill. Just come charging over the hill. There's a war out there somewhere, Hop.
Well, I never really got a sense of that reality of that war out there in this picture, or the reality of the love relationship between Sean Penn and Elizabeth McGovern. This movie is a collection of scenes. Some of them work quite well, many don't. It was more of a movie for me of puppy love and, in a way, puppy war. Nothing very substantial. something cute maybe for the teenage market. Not a bad film, but nothing that will linger in the mind.
I think you have completely missed the boat on this film. I think it's a really wonderful film, and I think you're being very unfair to it, especially when you compare it to Summer of '42, which was simply an exercise in kind of sepia-tone nostalgia.
Right.
This movie, despite the fact that it takes place in '42 or '43, has a real immediacy to it. It seems like these kids are contemporary of that time and also of us. It's a good relationship. The misunderstanding you talk about is very minor. There are two good relationships in the film between Sean Penn and McGovern, and Penn and Nicolas Cage. I really thought it was a really fine movie. I liked it.
I can compare it to another movie, and let's see how it stacks up against that. The Last Picture Show, which was also a period film.
I would compare it to The Last Picture
Now
Show.
we have a disagreement.
And you're up to your old, what you do is you take the 10 greatest films of all time and compare them to every movie we're reviewing this week. It's not as good. I'd say it deserves to be on a double bill with The Last Picture Show.
Really? Oh, I think that's not a bad way to operate, which is to take a look at the paradigm case, the best film of the kind, and see how it stacks up. And so it's not so bad if I compare it and you say it stacks up, and I say I compare it and it doesn't stack up. There's nothing wrong with that. But and more importantly, why doesn't it stack up for me? I think that it's because I felt it was sort of dress-up time. I felt these kids were acting out roles, and I never felt that they were really inhabiting the roles. I thought this was just sort of marching along. Isn't it cute that these young kids are in a little love relationship and in a little war? Whereas in The Last Picture Show, I just bought that whole thing. I didn't see anyone dressing up. I saw that was like a documentary.
Well, I think when kids are 17 or 18 years old, maybe they are dressing up a little bit. Certainly they're awestruck by the fact that they're going to go off and fight, and there's a very good scene in the movie where Sean Penn goes to a hospital ward and talks to some injured soldiers, and it becomes real for him. So it's not a puppy war after that scene. So there are all kinds of things in this movie that are interesting, I think. I think you missed the boat on it. I really do.
And likewise.
Okay. Next at the movies, Gene Hackman plays a widower who doesn't understand his two young sons. Our next movie is named Misunderstood, and it stars Gene Hackman as a wealthy American businessman based in North Africa. His young wife has just died, leaving the middle-aged Hackman with a couple of young sons that he doesn't really understand. And he allows himself to become so absorbed in his own grief that he's not really in touch with their sorrow. In this scene, Hackman has given his older son strict orders not to take the younger kid into town, and he finds out that he's been disobeyed.
Hi, Daddy!
It doesn't do any good to shout at you because you have no sense of responsibility. From now on, you can do anything you want to do. You're free, but not with Miles.
I didn't even want to take him.
Well, then why did you?
He forced me to.
He forced you to, that little tiny guy.
He's always hanging on.
He's hanging on because he loves you. That's
You don't understand.
I understand you treat him like a plaything.
No!
No, what do you mean, no? You just treat him like he's a toy. What do you want?
Happy birthday, Daddy.
It's my birthday.
Open. You like it?
Yeah, I like it.
I wanted to get you a motorcycle. Don't be angry at Andrew, Daddy. He pedaled as fast as he could, and I was heavy.
Motorcycle, huh? Night.
Good night.
That was Henry Thomas, the kid who was E.T.'s best friend, starring as the older son. The movie's basically about his relationship with Hackman and about how he tries to be a good kid and tries to do the right thing, but he's misunderstood by his father. Now, that would be a promising subject for a movie, maybe, but this movie surrounds it with two big distractions. There's a lot of unnecessary, exotic, local North African atmosphere that doesn't really mean anything, just shows that they shot it in North Africa. There's a lot of predictable tear-jerking and cliffhanging. The big crisis that happens at the end of this film was telegraphed on 3 different occasions before it finally happened, until we're basically just checking our watch to see how long it's going to be before this kid gets into trouble. This isn't really the study of a relationship. It's a soap opera set in Tunisia, and even the good performance by Gene Hackman, and also Henry Thomas is good in the film too, but they can't save it.
Now we're back in agreement. And, you hit it just right with the notion of why is this set in North Africa? As soon as I saw this big, fabulous house that Gene Hackman lived in, I thought, why? This is such an important...
As soon as I saw the Arabian name of the producer, I thought I knew why.
Okay. Well, but I'm sitting there and saying, this is such an interesting subject. Death. How does a young child cope with death? How does a father cope with a son and the loss? I mean, it's a terrific subject. Why do we have to have it be a special case for a movie? Why not put this right in the heart of the city?
Yeah, why do you need camels? Why do you need camels in the bazaar in North Africa in order to tell the story?
It's almost like they were afraid of the subject, that it was such a downer, which it can be, that they had to put a colorful coating around it. Gene Hackman can play salt-of-the-earth Americans better than any actor in the world, I have a feeling. Put him right in the heart of this country and tell the same story, and you'd have a terrific picture.
And also, just key in on the relationship between the father and his children. Instead of that, at the beginning of the film, we have this English governess from Central Casting. She's got the eyes that look like she's been awake for about 6 weeks. You know, she's a Frankenstein monster attacking
You don't need
kid.
it.
Then you get rid of her, you get the nice governess. Okay,
you don't need any of that stuff.
And the accident that happens to the kid, which is unforgivable in its predictability and in its sappiness.
No camels, no governesses, and no predictable accidents. Just between Henry Thomas and Gene Hackman, a very strong picture.
I think you're right.
So much for Misunderstood. Now to recap our reactions to the movies on this show. We both enjoyed the romantic adventure comedy Romancing the Stone, a fresh and funny buried treasure movie, 2 thumbs up. We split on Greystoke, the Legend of Tarzan movie. Roger gives it a marginal thumbs up. He liked its beginning a lot. I give it a marginal thumbs down. I found it actually got boring at the end. We split more strongly on Racing with the Moon. Roger enjoyed the World War II teenage love story. I found it to be just puppy love, puppy war. And we finished in agreement on Misunderstood, the Gene Hackman film about children coping with their parents' death.
So I guess the one we both agree on and recommend is Romancing the Stone, and we both agree it has a terrible title, so don't let the title throw you off. Next week at the movies, we'll be back with Rick Springfield, the star of General Hospital. In Hard to Hold, he plays a rock star in love. And until then, we'll see you at the movies.